I got to tell you, I thought I was protected. I thought, I've got a little bit of a following on YouTube. I know a lot of kind of important people. I know that I'm just a tiny nobody, but I've got a lot of giants that look out for me. And if I were to just vanish, people would notice. I am seeing some stuff that's happening that's making me start to wonder about my own safety. So if I get vanished, I want to tell you, if I get vanished, and I'm halfway joking and I'm halfway not joking, it's because of what I'm saying on GTT, just so you know. In fact, as crazy as this sounds, I've had closed door discussions with many people about the safety of my life if I publish diff, and not as a joke. A lot of people are terrified about what would happen to me if I publish the diff white paper. This is part of the reason why we haven't published it yet, is a lot of very serious people that understand how the world works really think that the moment I publish that paper, I might be disappeared. And I don't really think that's going to happen. But I did work in the TSSCI sector for a decade. And I have an understanding of how things work in the world, like how they really work. And people do get disappeared. Like it happens. And a diff could disrupt things. Like it could disrupt a lot of things. It could cost a lot of people a lot of money. A lot of money. That's part of the reason for the hesitation. There's some wisdom in us waiting to publish the diff white paper until after the IPO madness. Because then diff still comes out, but the worry about my personal safety decreases significantly. But if it comes out before the IPOs and people realize that this could be a massive game changer for LLMs and you shouldn't do that, instead you should do what I'm proposing, that could make the bottom fall out of that. And if that might not be good, right? And truth is, I actually do want to, I've got things I want to do, at least for the next 20 years. Like I have a very concrete plan. I realize this might sound like I'm just talking about random stuff, and I almost wish that I was. It's a weird thing to have conversations like this, and they're real too, right? This is not pretend. For those of you that aren't deeply involved in GTT, you probably either don't know what I'm talking about, or you think I'm probably saying just random stuff and it's all make-believe. And believe me, brothers and sisters, I wish it was. That would be awesome. Because then diff would just be published and I'd go about my day. But it's not. I've had a lot of closed door discussions with people that are extremely powerful, giving me very, very strong guidance to not publish that paper. So I've listened to them because, I mean, even I kind of know my place in the world, and I don't have 200 person army outside of my house protecting me from whatever could be thrown at me, right? I don't have that kind of wealth to support that kind of thing. And when you talk about costing a company on the order of maybe hundreds of billions of dollars, it's pretty easy math. It's actually very simple math if you just look at it from their perspective. Seriously, right? This person is a risk to our livelihood. They could end up costing us tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars. If they didn't exist, then there's no threat of that. Make them not exist. OpenAI has done it before, right? You guys know about that case, the whistleblower case. Look at the stuff that's happened with Boeing. Follow the breadcrumbs with Boeing. What was it, like 3 or 4 people that were going to testify against Boeing? And they all just happenstance vanish themselves from existence? What about all these scientists that are just disappearing, right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it. Like, there's an unusual number of scientists, specifically in the United States, that are just not around. They were, and then suddenly it's like, where did they go? They're just not there. And these are some pretty well-established scientists. Like, it's a little bit of a shit time to be a scientist. Yeah, maybe I should switch to being just an influencer. Maybe that's what my big plan is. I'm just switching my job. My real job is I actually am not a scientist anymore, guys. Just so everybody knows. I just do social media. I'm just an influencer. and I do comedy. Anyway, here's what I'll do after this IPO stuff happens. This is my promise to you guys. After the IPO is complete, I'll tell you truthfully about the conversations, so you understand like the severity of what we've been talking about. Yeah, because I think that for those of you that are like deep into GTT and know that I don't do fluff, like I build real stuff and I don't make up stories, then I really am trying to push things forward. You may be very curious to know how this went down and why there is this massive stall, right? Because I'm very much a person of my word. And when I say I'm going to do something, like I just do it, right? And I said I was going to publish this stuff on Diff. And then where is it? Goju, you said you're going to publish it. You've even seen the white paper. I've shown it on GTT. You know it exists. And let me tell you, some people have looked at that white paper and they're like majorly leveled up. That white paper unlocks a lot of stuff. I actually think could be my Magnum Opus. It took me 4 years to figure out how to do this shit. It was not, and that's after working in the field for 20 years. This is really not easy for me to figure out. Anyway, enough about that, but fun little side topic. Let me bring up the chat window just to see how things are looking. Yeah, I mean, look, for those of you that haven't seen the white paper, yeah, not really, Colin. I mean, so a lot of people ask this question, right? Like, couldn't somebody just figure it out? I mean, no. I mean, I do think someone else could discover diff, absolutely. But so the short list of people that could invent diff, I know personally. There are 10, 20 people in the world right now that are in the position that they could independently discover diff. I know them all personally. I could give you a list of their names, right? Armando Solar Lizama is one of them. Tim Kraska is another. Coincidentally, Jan LeCun is not one of them. He wouldn't be able to figure diff out. He doesn't understand enough about programming and software engineering. Because keep in mind, diff is principally for hard science. I don't really... Yeah, and Jan, for as smart as he is about ML, he is actually surprisingly not as advanced in programming languages. And this has been demonstrated numerous times with some of the somewhat simplistic work that he's done in prior stuff that those of us in the PL community have been surprised by on its lack of substance. In fact, it's pissed a lot of people off. At one point, I think one of their papers was claiming that they invented abstract syntax trees. It was like, No, you didn't. That stuff's existed for 50 years, guys. But if you read the paper, which I have, they claim that in the paper this is one of their technical discoveries. And all the discovery is that it's like they use an AST to do stuff with ML. Like, yeah, we've been doing that for a while, bro. No. You didn't invent ASTs. And also, if you think inventing an AST or using an AST is groundbreaking work in the PL space, you're clueless, buddy. Like, we're way beyond that. And that's what I mean, actually, Colin, is like the stuff that exists structurally in diff, at least from a programmatic side, very few people have a deep and nuanced understanding of temporal reasoning and the ability to abstract out intention through temporal windows. Like, it's a very advanced topic. And then you have to essentially be masterclass in 4 domains simultaneously: machine learning, software engineering, programming languages, and systems, all at once, to invent diff. All of them at the same time. Now, it's easy to be an expert in one of those. Lots of people are experts in one area. Expert in PL, expert in ML, expert in systems. Being multidisciplinary, where you're an expert in 2 fields, is extremely hard. So I know some people that are. Kaushik Sen, professor at Berkeley, he's an expert in programming languages, and he's an expert in software engineering. Those are 2 distinct fields. And then there's other world-class people that are experts. Some people are experts in like 3 fields. Armando Solar Lazama, he's an expert in machine learning. He's an expert in programming languages. He's an expert in formal systems. All 3 simultaneously. Very, very few people that are at that level, right? That's like having 3 PhDs in one person. In order to invent diff, you have to have 4. You have to have you have to have that level of expertise. You have to be able to essentially discover and invent bleeding edge research in those 4 domains distinctly to come up with it. Yeah, and so the truth is, like, as far as the 10 people that I know, I think that they could potentially invent this, but here's the thing. They're busy doing other things, and they're making significant contributions too in the stuff that they're working on. They don't really care about inventing diff because they're inventing stuff that is as consequential, just in different domains. So they're not going to like shift, because even if they have the capability, the work that they would have to do to get to parity it'd probably be like, I don't know, maybe a decade. It's not to say that they wouldn't get there. They would. I truly believe they would likely get to those same observations. But very few people, even today, have the ability to do intent reasoning over temporal windows. It's an extremely complex idea, right? Think about this. The NeurIPS paper that we published on precision and recall for time series, which was like this NeurIPS spotlight paper, which is sort of a big deal. All we did was essentially make the observation that inference doesn't work with precision and recall, which are the fundamental classification mechanisms that are used for machine learning, for time series. It just doesn't work. How is it that that wasn't figured out until 2020? Precision and recall have existed for over, I think the mathematical discovery of precision and recall is maybe, I want to say, it's like 1,000 years old. It is really well understood. But there's been heavy research in precision and recall for at least the last 100 years. How has no one else figured out that precision and recall don't work for time series? How did that not get figured out? The reason why is doing things in time series is extremely hard. It's not just slightly harder, it is orders of magnitude more complex to reason about. It's like the shift from doing serial programming to parallel programming, except that on steroids. Very few people can do research in parallel computing because the way you have to reason about things is significantly more cognitively demanding. You can't reason about normal threads of execution that happen sequentially. You have to be able to hold into your head multiple threads of execution that can have different contexts and different views of the world that are all running concurrently at the same time. And so time series stuff is basically like that, but like 10 times harder than that. And so a lot of the work and research that has happened over the last 100 years, I mean, if you think about it in sort of a more general way, the incentive mechanisms for professors, which are doing a lot of the, tier one bleeding research, the scientists and that type of thing, their incentive mechanisms I'm just going to call it for what it is there's very little difference between getting a paper like Precision and Recall for Time Series published at NeurIPS than a normal paper at NeurIPS. Even though that work, and in that paper, all we did was we presented 2 new equations. That's all we did. That took us 4 years to figure out. 4 years of a team of like 5 people working on this to figure out 2 equations. 2. How many people do you think are going to commit their life to that kind of madness when they can get essentially the same level of publication, just running the LLMs overnight and doing a minor little tunable thing and then making it super fancy and calling it a day? And if academia is basically rewarding, not necessarily on merit, but more as a bean counter, you are incentivized to pump out the stuff related to the bean counter. But some of us don't kind of follow that model, right? This is why I've said many times that I'll never be a tenure track professor. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in participating in the rat race. I'm far more interested in producing extremely high quality things that potentially take me significantly longer to develop and end up being far more meaningful, right? Like Nautica took me about a decade to build, but I liked it, right? I really care about the things that I work on, so I will spend a ridiculous amount of time on it because it just kind of matters to me. Like I'm not kind of wired the right way.